timeline of events. And in this timeline of events is located the Great War. And that's where we are now. Because Jerusalem is now center stage. An Israeli Prime Minister said many years ago, "We control the United States of America." That's what he said. If any Pakistani Prime Minister were to say that, the bombs would start falling. But Israel could say that and get away. We begin with a very famous event in which our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, was speaking to a companion whose name was Mu'az ibn Jabal, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and he gave him a timeline of events with which history will culminate. He said, when Jerusalem, I'm giving you the English translation, not the Arabic text. When Jerusalem is center stage in the world, look at Medina, it is in forlorn desolation, playing no role at all in affairs of the world. No role at all in affairs of the world. Forlorn desolation. At that time, he said, the next event which will occur would be the Malhama, the Great War. And the Christians refer to it as Armageddon, and the Jews do the same thing. He then said, after the Great War, the next event that will occur would be the conquest of Constantinople. And because of this, they changed the name of the city from Constantinople, and they prevented, you are legally prohibited from using the name Constantinople now in Turkey, in order to hide this subject. That the conquest of Constantinople, prophesied by Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, would take place 7 years after the Great War. But another hadith says 7 months. And then after the Great War, the next event to occur would be the khuruj of the Antichrist, of Al-Masih al-Dajjal. Khuruj means appearing in person. Prior to this, he was here, but the Quran refers to him as a shadow, and the shadow will appear in 3 parts. And my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, if you look at the cover design, you'd see the 3 parts. That in the first part, the Antichrist, having brought modern Western civilization into being, they don't teach this in political science in the universities. Having brought modern Western civilization into being, the Antichrist then gave us the first stage in which Pax Britannica occurred. And Britain became the ruling state in the world. And then in the second stage, he gave us Pax Americana. And the United States replaced Britain as the next ruling state in the world. And at all instances, Britain, United States always have an obsession with the Holy Land. An obsession with bringing the Jews back to the Holy Land, an obsession in restoring a state of Israel in the Holy Land, an obsession in getting that Israel to rule the world. And so after Pax Americana comes the third and the last stage of the shadow, Pax Judaica. And then the Antichrist, or Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, would appear in person. The Christian world doesn't know this. We have this in our eschatology. They don't have it. And guess how many scholars of Islam are teaching this subject? When he appears in person, at that time you'll see him. He will be a Jew. He'll be a young man. He'll be powerfully built. He'll have the curls of the side, the sideburns that the Torah says that the Israelite people must keep. So here is the opening statement of our lecture, the hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which gives us this extraordinarily important timeline of events. And in this timeline of events is located the Great War. And that's where we are now. Because Jerusalem is now center stage. An Israeli Prime Minister said many years ago, "We control the United States of America." That's what he said. If any Pakistani Prime Minister were to say that, the bombs would start falling. But Israel could say that and get away. We are precisely at that moment now in history when Israel, Jerusalem is center stage, and Medina is playing no role whatsoever. It's in forlorn desolation. And so we are, in fact, now waiting for the next event, which is the Great War. As a consequence, Islamic scholarship should have this on the front burner. The scholars of Islam should be lecturing on this subject. The mimbar should always be speaking on this subject. Is it not mysterious that nobody speaks on it? Nobody speaks of it. The Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, not only informed us that there's going to be this great war called the Malhama, but in another hadith which I'll quote later, which perhaps I quoted yesterday, I don't know, he said that 99% of those who fight for what he called a mountain of gold would die in this war. So this cannot be conventional warfare. This has to be warfare using weapons of mass destruction. And the most famous of them all is nuclear weapons. But the enemy probably has other weapons that we don't know about. And only when the war starts will the world witness these weapons. The Quran confirms what our Prophet has said. And now we turn to the second part of the lecture. And this is a verse of the Quran located in Suratul Isra. And this is what Allah says. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإن من قرية إلا نحن مهلكوها قبل يوم القيامة. There is not a single city that will escape, but that we will destroy them all. And we will do this before the end of the world. This is not the end of the world, this is before the end of the world. أو معذبوها عذابا شديد. And those cities which escape total destruction will experience terrible punishment. كان ذلك في الكتاب مسطورا. And this is something inscribed in the book, that this has come to pass. Every city will be destroyed, and those who do not experience destruction will experience terrible punishment. When the Quran says every city will be destroyed, before we come to a conclusion, we need to go to the rest of the book, the Quran, to analyze and to explain this statement. And in the rest of the Quran, Allah has promised that He will protect those who have faith. حَقٌّ عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He will protect those who have faith and who are righteous in conduct. And in Surah Al-Kahf, which is the surah of the end time, you recall someone named Zulqarnain, and he has power. He can choose to do anything he wants to do, but he says, I will use my power to protect those who have faith and whose conduct is righteous. So when Allah says He'll destroy every town and every city, the implication from the rest of the Quran is that He will destroy every town and every city which deserves to be destroyed. And so now we have to use our mental faculty, our capacity to think. And there's so few in the world today now who can think. You have a smartphone, anybody? Yeah. This is the biggest destruction, the smartphone, of your capacity to think. So give it to your children and see what kind of, when they grow up, see what will be their capacity to think. Yeah, give it to your children. We have to look around us in the world today to see who are those who deserve to be destroyed. And then we know for certain these people, these towns, these cities are destined for destruction. We have first of all to locate in the Quran that deplorable sin called homosexuality, and the divine response to the people of Lut alayhi salam, the Prophet Lot.